We're going to shift gears here a little away from vaccine and talk about web-based solutions or software. And we're specifically looking at herd health management solutions. If you're like me, when you start managing data, it can sometimes become overwhelming. And I've had the opportunity in the last year to do some work with Global VetLink. And what they've been putting together is a pretty nice platform of data management tools or web-based tools for veterinarians to use. When you look at these, each of these are web-based, but you've got FeedLINK, which will provide electronic veterinary feed directives, ScriptLink, which will provide electronic prescriptions, LabLINK HIMS, which is a diagnostic database, and HealthLink, which provides health certificates, electronic health certificates. All of those, when you look at that collectively, provides a nice suite for you as a veterinarian to use. In the interest of time today, we're going to focus primarily on the veterinary feed directive because of the timeliness of the upcoming rule, but also just a little bit on LabLINK HIMS. First, real quickly, if you're not familiar with Global VetLink, it is based right in Ames, Iowa. It's been in business for 16 years and dedicated to the animal health industry. With all of its different solutions, and there's more than what I just showed, there's connection to over 2,000 veterinary clinics, and all of the registered feed mills, licensed feed mills, are already in the system. Dealing with health papers, there's been over 233 million animals moved with the health papers, electronic health papers on the system. This is probably important just as a background. Global VetLink is accepted by all 50 states with their digital signature technology. So this is accepted by the USDA for the health papers. It's also accepted by the FDA now for the VFDs. And speaking of those, there's already been over 25,000 electronic VFDs that have been generated in FeedLINK since its inception in 2005. I think that's important because there's a running track record with that program, and it does work and has worked now for over 11 years. Why is that important? I think everybody's aware in this room, but as we look at the products today that are available in feed, the majority are over the counter. They're available over the counter, with just a few that you see on the right that are actually VFD today. But as of January 1st, at the stroke of midnight, January 1st, 2017, all of those that just turned gray will be transitioning over to VFD. A significant change for our industry, not just the swine industry, but all food animal industries. What does that mean? Estimates back in 2012 was that less than 1% of the feed was medicated with VFDs, of the medicated feed was VFDs. And estimates right now are that that's probably going to be over 60% when you look across the different species groups. A tremendous increase. Estimates of current VFDs written across all species groups is in the thousands. The FDA estimates that come 2017 there could be as many as 750,000 VFDs written for all species groups. So we're going to see a 100-fold increase in VFDs. How do you handle all of that data? Well, one answer would be to look at it electronically. And again, this system, FeedLINK, has been in place now for over 11 years. And essentially, you as the veterinarian initiate this process by creating a veterinary feed directive through FeedLINK that automatically gets communicated to the producer or client, as well as the feed distributor or feed mill. All of that's electronic, and all of it takes place in just a matter of minutes. This is an example of an electronic feed directive that's generated in FeedLINK. You can see well, you can't see it, but this has all of the required information for a veterinary feed directive. It also has space for multiple locations. We don't have time to go into all the different nuances of changes with the new ruling, assuming you're familiar with it, but one of them is you can have multiple locations for that feed to be delivered. Only one feed mill, but multiple locations. FeedLINK was changed in order to accommodate multiple locations, and this shows here just 2, but each page can hold 45, and if you need more than one page, you can go on to an additional page. The other thing I want to point out is Global VetLink is working very closely with the biopharma companies to already get these transition VFDs loaded into the system. An example here is Penchlor from Farmgate is still an over-the-counter product, but it will be transitioning to VFD, and we're already getting those products loaded into a demo server that can then transition over to the live server at the end of the year. So that work is already in place. This is just a screenshot, if you haven't been into FeedLINK, just to see what that looks like. The fields are fairly intuitive, and as you enter in any of these fields, it's a type-forward technology, meaning that if you type, for example, a P for Palmitil, it'll already load up all the P choices that you have, and then you can select Palmitil. You can also, in that same drug category, just pick out by the drug, chlorotetracycline, it'll bring up all of your options. Or you can enter just by an indication, respiratory disease, and see what options you have for the feed meds. One important feature for FeedLINK from Global VetLink is that it's got SmartEngine built into it. What does that mean? As you know, each of the products have their own labels, and so there are some very specific things within those labels. Within FeedLINK, if you pick Palmitil, for example, you will only be able to see the species and indication of use, stage of production, dosage, duration of use, expiration date, and any approved combinations for that product. So this SmartEngine will guide you through the process, which is really important for us as veterinarians to make sure it's an accurate VFD, but it also provides assurance back to the feed mill that they're getting an accurate VFD. When you're completed with filling out the VFD, which usually takes about 2 minutes or less, then you're given the opportunity to preview it and make sure all of the information is what you want in there. And the final step is you just go in, you log back in order to have this electronic signature. Once that's done, that VFD is locked down. You cannot change it. You can void it, but you cannot change it. But that's locked down, and as I said earlier, that's accepted by the FDA, and there's already been 25,000 that have been generated within FeedLINK over the last 10 years. Global VetLink is also looking forward, not just to how can we make it easy for the veterinarian to generate this VFD, but also where does that VFD go? And so I talk about integration. What that means is it's able to integrate with other softwares seamlessly such that you don't have to do that work. And you may have seen a couple of announcements that Global VetLink's already come out with. The first integration on the feed side has been with Prairie Systems. They have a feed allocation system. The idea there is that you can manage fulfillment and monitor expirations, and all of that free flows back and forth between FeedLINK and the feed software. It also will get to the point where if there's a feed order that comes in and there's not a VFD in place, that can generate a request back to you, the veterinarian, in order to get that covered in a timely manner. There's other feed software programs that Global VetLink is also working with. Prairie Systems, the first one that's been announced. But there's also integration on the production side, and so that the announcement just recently was with MetaFarms, and that's the opportunity to put FeedLINK into MetaFarms so that if you, as a customer of MetaFarms, want to have your VFDs nestled somewhere within MetaFarms, that will pass seamlessly. There's other production software Global VetLink is working with that are looking at potentially loading that into the area where you keep your information for audits, for example. So integration services will help the industry by making more of these interactions seamless, and it's not more work for you, and it's not re-entry of information. This is just a diagram to show the original was you, the veterinarian, generating it, going to the producer and the feed mill with this integration partner that can pass back and forth with you and your customer and the feed mill, depending upon what that integration is. All right, I'm going to change gears real quick as we finish up and talk a little bit about LabLINK HIMS now. Dr. Connors spoke about LabLINK HIMS last year at this meeting, but just briefly, that's a product that aggregates across multiple labs and brings it in to create a database just for you with your historic and current diagnostics. Today there's 7 different labs all listed here that are participating in LabLINK HIMS, and there's 2 more that are about to come on board. what that allows you to do is, regardless of what lab you use, you bring that into the same place. Now, even if you're just working with one lab, there's a tremendous amount of value for LabLINK HIMS because there's reports that are automatically generated or that you can generate that are prescribed, and I'll go through a couple of examples here. The first one shows you pathogen flow summary. And this pathogen flow summary, if you look at this data, the blue represents mycoplasma prevalence, the red represents PRRS prevalence, and that constitutes over 500 cases over these 6 months. So it's all aggregated into this one report. You could break that down by flow, you could break it down by site if you wanted to, or you can roll it all up and look at it as an aggregate. But you've got the prevalence up here, and you've got the number of cases, whether that's mycoplasma or PRRS, rolling across down below from months January through June here. One other report, a prevalence over time, gives you the opportunity to select specific cases. You might have a project going on, specific cases, and then go in and look at the prevalence by age of pig. In this case, weeks 3, 6, 10, 14, etc. And this particular instance is for swine influenza PCR, so you got percent positive represented on the left y-axis, and you got CT value represented on the right y-axis, and you can quickly go through and look at swine influenza, PED, Delta Corona, etc., etc. So this database allows you to look at multiple cases, either current or historic, all within your system. And then finally, which ties back to the VFDs and the prescriptions, is you can also look at your sensitivity data. So if you can think about this, you can roll back for a full year. Let's look at 2015, and let's look at the sensitivity patterns relative to, in this case, ASUS, and boom, there's all of the cases and whether it was sensitive or resistant. And you can look at any time period you want. As we project forward with the VFD and prescription rules, probably not in 2017, but at some point I think we need to be ready to be able to justify the decisions that we're making. Global VetLink is also looking forward to where does LabLINK HIMS need to go. And I just want to mention real briefly before I finish here that there's also integrations happening with LabLINK HIMS. And there was a pretty innovative project that's been completed now with PIC in which Global VetLink with LabLINK HIMS, participating with Iowa State, Roger Main and his team, and Disease BioPortal to go ahead and auto-populate all the way out into Disease BioPortal through data that is aggregated in HIMS. And this last slide here might be a little overwhelming, but to me it is the future. And this is Disease BioPortal. This is courtesy of PIC. And you got over 240 different sites, data from 240 different sites. And you've got data on PED, Delta coronavirus, PRRS, and MHIO for the last 9 quarters. Over 2 years of data for 4 different pathogens across 240 different sites, all nestled in one dashboard. So that's the power that you can have once you start integrating some of these softwares together. So with that, just want to end by saying if you have any further questions or want to know more, please visit Global VetLink.